Hi, it's Kim with another practice for your mind, body, breath. Basic restorative pose practice. I've created this restorative pose practice video for you to do at home on your own. This video includes the anatomy of the poses, showing how the poses work in your body. I also have a video of this same basic restorative practice that does not include the anatomy. Use this video until you become familiar with the poses and can do them without this. When you reach that point, give yourself about 2 minutes in each pose on each side. Here's what you need to do the practice. 4 by 6 by 9 inch yoga blocks to use in lunge under your hands, a chair to lay your legs over, and make sure it's a chair with no back like this so you can slide your feet through so that they're not jammed up against the back. You'll also need a pillow or some blankets to put under your head so that your chin is slightly lower than your forehead. And finally, have a couple of extra blankets with you in case you need them to prop your thighs or your elbow in Jatara Parivritanasana, like this. Mr. Bones, let's show them the anatomy of lunge. Even though it's deceptively easy and it doesn't feel like you're doing much of anything, the lunge releases the tension in a big muscle, a deep muscle in the middle of our bodies called the psoas muscle. It attaches here from the middle of your spine down through the middle of your pelvis and your core to the inside of the very top of your thigh bone, this bone here, which is called your lesser trochanter. So that's where the psoas muscle goes. And when you do the lunge, because of the angles of your thigh bones into your hip socket and the way you're leaning into your body with the weight of your body in just the right angle, it causes the muscles of the psoas on both sides to release. When this muscle is tight, when your psoas muscle is tight, it pulls your thigh bone up this way toward the ceiling. And as that muscle releases and it gets longer, then your thigh bone lets go and isn't pulled so high up, and that's the anatomy of lunge. Thank you, Mr. Bones. Anjani Lunge. Start on your hands and knees with 2 blocks under each hand and bring your right foot forward first, checking to make sure that your shin bone stays vertical. You may need to scoot your foot forward or back to get your shin bone vertical. Then once your shin bone is vertical, check the placement of your blocks and hands so that your wrists are right under your shoulders. Make sure your hips are not twisted, but are square. And your legs are far enough apart that it looks like a railroad track and not a tightrope. This is what it looks like from the side, with square hips and your head hanging softly forward and your wrists right under your shoulders. Shin bone is vertical. Leaning weight evenly into both hands and arms, with your elbows as straight as you can get them. This is what it looks like from the back, just so you can see another view. This would be twisted hips, and these are square hips, where you're not dragging your hips forward. To come out, bend your elbows and press back, and then sit back, and we'll do the other side. Coming up on your hands and knees, bring your left foot forward, check to make sure your shin bone is vertical, slide the blocks forward or back until they're in a good position so that your wrists will be right under your shoulders, and let your head hang softly forward. Leaning weight evenly into both hands and arms, and your head just hangs hanging softly forward, giving you traction through your whole spine. Easy breathing. Here it is from the side, so you can see head hanging softly forward, wrists under shoulders, and hips are square, not twisted. And then to come out, bend your elbows and press back and bring your front foot back. It's easiest to see the anatomy of alternate leg here using the pelvic model. Alternate leg pose, the way we do it, releases tension in the muscles that attach to our tailbones. Here's your tailbone right here. And there are quite a few muscles actually in the base of our spine that attach to our tailbone. When we are tense or frightened or just going through our daily lives, the muscles of our tailbone tuck up like this. They tuck up this way and curl our tailbone up, and usually to one side. And so what the pose alternate leg does is release these muscles, allowing the tailbone muscles to ease, and then our tailbones settle down toward the floor instead of being pulled up toward our ribs. There are a number of big, strong tailbone muscles that are released in alternate leg pose, including one called your pubococcygeal muscle, which stretches from your tailbone to your pubic bone on both sides, like this. This is one of the deepest, strongest muscles in our bodies, and when our tailbone pulls up like this, and it pulls that pubococcygeal muscle tight, that muscle, because it attaches to our pubic bone here, pulls our pubic bone in and back, compressing our core, compressing all the internal organs in here, but also pulling on another muscle, which I'll show you a little later, called the transversus abdominis, which attaches from our pubic bone all the way up to our ribs just below our collarbones. So alternate leg pose releases the tension in our tailbone muscles. Alternate leg. You'll be doing alternate leg pose lying down with your legs over a chair. And you want enough under your head so that your chin is slightly lower than your forehead. Bring one knee in toward your chest and hold onto that knee very easily with your hands across the top of your knee. Don't pull your leg in too close to your chest, but leave the heel of your foot resting on the chair. If you pull your leg in too far like this, you actually miss the angle of the most release into your spine. Or if you have your knee coming out toward your ear, same thing. You might get a stretch in your hip, but you'll miss the release into your spine, into your tailbone muscles. So it's best to leave your heel resting on the chair so that your thigh bone is nearly vertical as it goes into your hip socket. Resting your hands right across the top of your knee. And now we'll do the other side. Heel rests on the chair, knee comes in toward your chest, hands very gently over the top of your knee. Thigh bone is nearly vertical into your hip socket. Softening here. And if it's too much pull on your shoulders and neck to have your hands over your knee, you can support your thigh bone from the side like this, resting your elbow on the floor. Or hands across the top of your knee, giving you a little more weight into your thigh bone, whichever is most comfortable for you. Alternate leg diagonal pose is a pose that releases muscles at the base of our spine that attach to our sacrum, which is this triangular bone just above our tailbones here. There's a big strong muscle called the piriformis muscle, which attaches from the side of our sacrum out to our greater trochanter here at the top of our thigh bone. So sacrum to greater trochanter. This is the piriformis muscle, and this is one of the big strong muscles that's released in alternate leg diagonal pose. Alternate leg diagonal. To do alternate leg diagonal pose, you begin just the same way you began for alternate leg pose. You bring one knee into your chest and hold onto your knee, leaving your heel resting on the chair for a breath or two. To move into alternate leg diagonal, slide your hands down alongside your knee. Use your hands to back your leg up until your thigh bone is vertical. Then use your hands to bring your knee very gently across the middle of your spine, not too far like this, but just across the middle, so that you're keeping your hip on the floor, but your knee is across the midline of your body. Then slowly bring your knee in toward your chest to the point where you feel it want to wander back out to the side. Where you feel that point where it wants to wander back out to the side, hold your leg there and just place your hands very gently over the top of your knee. To move out, bring your knee back into alignment in alternate leg pose with your thigh over your ribs on the same side. And then place your leg back over the chair. And we'll do the other side. Starting an alternate leg pose with your thigh over your ribs on the same side. And then using your hands to back your knee up toward the ceiling until your thigh bone's vertical. And then moving your knee very slowly over your midline, just till it's on the other side, but your hip is still on the floor. And then very gently bringing your knee in a little closer to your chest, and the point where you feel your knee wander back out to the side, hold it there and place your hands very gently across the top of your knee, settling into this angle. To come out, move your leg back into alternate leg angle so that your thigh is over your ribs on the same side. Pause here for a breath or two, and then lay your leg back over the chair. Anjani Lunge. Start on your hands and knees with 2 blocks under each hand and bring your right foot forward first, checking to make sure that your shin bone stays vertical. You may need to scoot your foot forward or back to get your shin bone vertical. Then once your shin bone is vertical, check the placement of your blocks and hands so that your wrists are right under your shoulders. Make sure your hips are not twisted, but are square. And your legs are far enough apart that it looks like a railroad track and not a tightrope. This is what it looks like from the side, with square hips and your head hanging softly forward and your wrists right under your shoulders. Shin bone is vertical. Leaning weight evenly into both hands and arms, with your elbows as straight as you can get them. This is what it looks like from the back, just so you can see another view. This would be twisted hips, and these are square hips, where you're not dragging your hips forward. To come out, bend your elbows and press back, and then sit back, and we'll do the other side. Coming up on your hands and knees, bring your left foot forward, check to make sure your shin bone is vertical, slide the blocks forward or back until they're in a good position so that your wrists will be right under your shoulders, and let your head hang softly forward, leaning weight evenly into both hands and arms. And your head just hangs softly forward, giving you traction through your whole spine. Easy breathing. Here it is from the side, so you can see head hanging softly forward, wrists under shoulders. And hips are square, not twisted. And then to come out, bend your elbows and press back and bring your front foot back. The anatomy of Jatara Parivrittanasana is primarily concerned with a big, strong muscle called the transversus abdominis that attaches from your pubic bone here all the way up to your ribs, just below your collarbone, on both sides of your body. Remember I told you about how your tailbone tucks up from tension when we move, and as your tailbone tucks up, it pulls back on your pubic bone, pulling that pubic bone in and back. And when that bone gets pulled in and back, the transversus abdominis, which attaches here to here, gets tension in it. This is the tension that's primarily responsible for people beginning to cave forward like this, which we see primarily in older people. It's pubic bone being pulled in and back by a really strong pubocox, a really tight pubococcygeal muscle, and then it causes us to cave forward because of the transversus abdominis connection here. When we do Jatara Parivrittanasana, because of the way we align our legs and our arms, we release some of the tension in our collarbones, and that carries down to our pubic bone and helps to release the pubococcygeal muscle from the top down. This is a wonderful way to get release through the whole body in the last pose in this sequence. And it's one of the reasons why a lot of people find this to be one of their favorite poses. Jatara Parivrittanasana, Reclining Twist. To do the reclining twist, you'll be starting with your legs over the chair, and you bring both knees into your chest and hold on to your knees, and then roll your whole body over to one side, making sure that your lower kneecap and your wrist are touching, and your top hand rests on your waist with your elbow behind you. Your legs are in alignment so that there's a 90-degree angle in your knees, so your feet are not too far in or out. And then check the angle of your thigh bone. If its slope is more than 45 degrees, place a folded blanket or a pillow just between your thighs to raise your thigh bone up so that the slope of your thigh bone is less than 45 degrees. Your back hand can rest on the floor if that's comfortable for you, or you can keep your elbow bent. Here's what it looks like from the back. When you roll over to your side and rest your upper hand on your waist, if your elbow doesn't touch the floor, place a blanket or a pillow under your elbow to give your elbow and upper arm some support. This will keep from tugging on your collarbone. If your elbow touches the floor and it's comfortable for you, straighten your elbow and let your hand rest on the floor as well. But if it tugs on your collarbone, it's best to keep your elbow bent and supported with a blanket if you need to. Now let's do the other side. Knees come into your chest and you hold on to both knees. Roll your whole body over to your other side. Get your lower kneecap and wrist bone aligned so that they touch and your palm is facing the ceiling. Slide your upper hand onto your waist and let your elbow soften behind you, propping your elbow if you need to, and also checking the slope of your thigh bone. And if it's more than 45 degrees, placing a folded blanket or a pillow just between your thighs, not between your calves, just between your thighs like this, to raise your thigh bone up and change the angle of your thigh bone into your hip socket. Soften here and allow the pose to have its effect. And when you're done, rolling out of the pose, laying your legs back over the chair, pausing here, giving yourself a few minutes here for the poses to integrate. Placing your hands on your waist so that your collarbone is nice and soft, or if it's comfortable for you, letting your arms open out, your elbows be straight, but not with your palms facing the floor. That tightens your collarbones. Your palms facing the ceiling if your arms are straight. Or again, if your elbows are bent, hands on your waist, whichever is most comfortable for you. Enjoy.